Good morning, Patti. Thank you so much for joining us at the Race to Net Zero Summit. We are so thrilled to have you and thrilled to introduce you to Silicon Valley. I know you're a new CEO here, but you've got a big job leading PG&E, coming on at a very important and momentous time, looking at climate and our future for clean energy. Can you tell us a little bit about why you left your leadership role at another utility in Michigan to come out to PG&E? Why and why now?
Well, good morning, Ahmad. Great to be with you. And it's really a pleasure to be with Silicon Valley Leadership Group today. I appreciate you inviting me. You know, I have an interesting background, and it often surprises people. Though I was CEO of a utility in Michigan, my time has been equally split professionally, about 15 years in automotive and 15 years in electric and gas utility. And so I do bring a different perspective, but I would say my perspective has evolved quite a lot across my career. You know, I went from producing cars that ran on fossil fuels to retiring a bunch of coal plants and supporting the transition to electric vehicles. And though it is great to be back in California, I did do my graduate work at Stanford, where I got my MS in management at the GSB. But for this time and for what's required in California and for PG&E specifically, I have definitely come to make it right, to make it safe, to earn back the trust of the people that we are privileged to serve. I'm here to find and fix what needs fixing. So, you know, I think what's most necessary right now for PG&E is to put good practices, process, and standards in place. I've been doing lean implementations, lean operating system implementations my entire career, implementing quality systems, implementing continuous improvement. I'd say we've got a lot of opportunity at PG&E for the deployment of those capabilities. And when I think about my early days in my career in automotive, what I was learning about continuous improvement and process improvement and quality, it was all about market positioning and market competitiveness in automotive. But here at PG&E, it's much higher stakes. For me and for our team at PG&E, what's at stake is this existential threat of climate change, and obviously the current threat of wildfire, and wildfire prevention requires the best practices available to us. And so that's why I've come to join PG&E and come to serve the people of California and make it safe again.
Well, thank you, Patti. That's well said. And I should take this opportunity to thank all your frontline workers at PG&E. We saw how hard they were working last week with the heat through this entire pandemic. I know it's been tough for all involved. And when you look at your experience in Michigan and contrast that to coming out here to California, I would be curious how specifically it is different, whether from a state regulatory standpoint or looking at maybe our approach here with climate that is pretty progressive. Can you contrast the two for us?
Well, the way I think about it, and this might be surprising to some of your participants here today, in Michigan, climate change was still sort of theoretical. We had not experienced the extremes that we're experiencing here in California. And so for some, I had to do a lot of convincing of people that the changes we were making, retiring our coal, in fact, eliminating coal as a fuel source and transitioning to clean energy resources, I had to convince people that that was the right thing to do in many cases. But come out to California and there's such an understanding, a visceral understanding of the effects of climate change, that there's not a problem with having to convince anyone. It's just, can we go fast enough? How do we go fast enough? What needs to happen to address the effects and thwart climate change? Not just adapt to it, but slow it down. We have a huge opportunity here. And so I do think there's no more important place in the world than this area and the role that PG&E can play as a key enabler to thwarting climate change, and being a force for good is a real ambition of ours.
And as you know, our theme today is Race to Net Zero. Silicon Valley companies are deeply involved in the clean energy economy, and we all want to get to net zero carbon as quickly as we can. But, you and I know, and we've been pretty honest, and when we had a chance to meet, a pretty direct conversation about it, that traditional utilities such as PG&E are often seen as moving too slowly. So I'd like to ask you how PG&E is contributing to California's clean energy future.
Well, I think PG&E, first of all, I'm very impressed with the degree of commitment that I'm finding from my team on this matter. And the good news is PG&E is a national leader in the delivery of energy that is greenhouse gas free. 85% of our bundled sales are greenhouse gas free. So that puts us in the top decile of utilities in the nation. So that's great news, but that's not enough, actually, because I think we all know and we've all learned that climate change is being driven by a variety of sources. Obviously, power generation is one, but we know that 40% of the carbon emissions are transportation related. Therefore, our commitment to enabling electric vehicles is a really important part of the solution. And I'm really bullish on electric vehicles. With my experience in automotive and electric utilities, it's like this perfect combination, unique combination of perspective and relationships that we can leverage here to really push the envelope on doing our part both in generation, but also in electric vehicles. And then really exciting to me, the distributed energy future, which I'll be happy to talk more about.
Well, that's another very good segue. When you look at your operations and how you are specifically adapting them to California's climate future, or to meet California's future climate goals, I would love it, and I think our audience would be very interested to hear more of that detail.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I want to sort of frame up what I think is our combination of challenges at PG&E and how they ultimately relate to climate change. Certainly the effects of climate change we feel in the form of wildfire, but I like to think of it like a tree. So at the branches of the tree, we have our duty to protect and to serve, and we do that today through our public safety power shutoff program to keep people safe during climate events, whether it's wind and drought and the combined effects that cause wildfire. The trunk of the tree, however, is our system, and our system should be what is protecting people, not ultimately PSPS, but protecting people through a system that is resilient and hardened and adapted to the climate conditions. But I never want to forget that the root of that tree is in fact climate change. And that is where the real work needs to be done so that we can stop the effects, or at a minimum, slow them dramatically. So let me go back to PSPS for just a minute. And I think some of your participants today are going to find very interesting the degree of technology that we have deployed to our public safety power shutoff. I want all of the participants to know that the hardest decision that we make is shutting the power off to keep people safe. We have been trained our entire careers to keep the lights on. And so to direct our team to shut off the power because there is a specific customer group or a circuit that is at risk is a massive departure from our traditional mindset. So what we've been working really hard at, and what I'm excited about in the long term, is making PSPS much less disruptive. And there's several ways that we can do that. One, we can do that through technologies that help us pinpoint precisely where the challenge is. We have our entire service area broken down into 4-kilometer blocks, and we can see with weather stations and cameras and our ability to assess the data that we have feeding each of these 4-kilometer blocks precisely what's happening in those blocks, and have continuously improved the artificial intelligence that backs up the predictive nature of what is the block that is most likely to have a fire risk under all of these varying conditions. So we're monitoring that all the time. We pull the trigger on a PSPS event when we see the conditions are likely that significant events could occur. And we can see where we have called a PSPS event, we see significant damage in that area that uninterrupted, and if we had not de-energized, likely would have caused a fire. So we're seeing that it works, but the real trick here is to make it less disruptive.
Right.
So for example, up in Pollock Pines, I was just there a couple weeks ago, we have a quick connect generation capability now where we can roll in a mobile generator set when we see the conditions are likely for a PSPS event. And we can power the downtown area because it's undergrounded, and we can keep the gas station, the grocery store, the fire station, the Red Cross facilities open and energized while the surrounding area is being kept safe and de-energized. But then I think that's at the bulk scale. How about at the residential scale? And let's start using and tapping into the stationary power storage resources, whether it's a power wall or even a more traditional generator, or we build on the electric vehicles that are in the garage. Let's get those bi-directional charging vehicles working so that people can have the energy that they need and be safe. There should not be a trade-off.
Right,
so
right.
Lots of technology applications available just in that PSPS portion of our system.
Well, Patti, wherever SVLG can be a resource, please do use us as such with venture or making connections to our companies. We all share very much in the success, in your success in PG&E, keeping us all safe. One last question. You've been very generous with your time this morning, but I want to touch on equity. Because I have seen, looking at all of your awards, looking at what you've done in just 6 months, your focus on equity for women in leadership, racial diversity, military vets, which I think we should be talking more about. How is equity a part of your strategy at PG&E?
My leading with love mindset was born out of a moment in time when at my previous company, somebody called and said, hey, can we fly the gay pride flag? The gay pride parade is this weekend. And I said, of course. And I really didn't think that hard about it. I said, of course. And we flew the flag, and I got a lot of blowback from that area and from that community. And my sister said to me, Patti, you're getting a lot of heat. Do you know what you're doing here? And I said to her, I said, look, we're going to lead with love. And in that mindset, I don't think we can go wrong. And so that was some time ago, many, many years ago. And so my mindset about equity is born out of this commitment to leading with love, that every person should be able to reach their full potential. And that if an organization can create an environment where diversity and differences and uniqueness is celebrated, then we can make real progress. But it's not just sort of a feel-good commitment. It's very measurable, and you can measure your results, and you can push. I'll tell you another story. I was looking to add at a previous company a woman of color to my board of directors, and everyone says, "Oh, it's so hard. You know, it's so hard. There's so few people. It's really competitive." And in my circles, I had circles of friends who knew lots of people, and literally, my CFO was African American, and within 15 minutes, he gave me a list of about 10 women who would be extraordinary additions to our board, and I was able to talk my number one person into joining that board of directors. When you look at our leadership team at PG&E, I just had to hire an entire executive team. Most of the positions were open.
It's quite a team you've put together already.
Well, and that executive team, we have, of my 10 direct reports, only 3 are white men. And so I say that to say that, and trust me when I tell you, I did not have to make any compromises in selecting the best people. We have an extraordinary team with deep, rich experience. And so given that, I just say that sometimes it's just a choice. The leader has to choose to make a commitment to equity. And when you do, you will find that there are an extraordinary talent pool of people who can fill the positions when you have available positions, and you can intentionally build that pipeline. It's just truly a commitment, and I have learned that our business is better when we have a diverse set of points of view in the conversations. The tough conversations go deeper, the ideas are wider, and I'm firmly committed to it, and I look forward to being a leader in the Bay Area and Silicon Valley and Northern California, in creating opportunities for equitable access to prosperity for all people.
Well, thank you so much, Patti. Please keep it up. A great conversation this morning. Leadership, climate, equity, technology as we race to net zero. A really fascinating conversation. And again, thank you to all the frontline workers at PG&E. I know it has not been easy over the last week and through this pandemic time. We're very grateful for all of their hard work.
Thank you so much, Ahmad. Great to be with you today.